Stay free with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble. Got a question there, Gal?
Yeah, Andrew, I was just wondering if you might have any ideas around the kind of because obviously one of their big main topics is around disinformation this year. And as we've seen with Davos before and the WEF, things that they've spoken about, for example, digital ID, that now we're seeing in California. Gavin Newsom is actually bringing in digital ID. So we are seeing the manifestation of things that are spoken about at Davos actually coming to become government policy. With disinformation and misinformation, we found a lot out through the Twitter files recently in ways in which there were these collusions between big tech and the government. So we are learning a bit more about that kind of influence. But what do you think the next big play might be to come out of Davos this year, and what we might see in the future manifest?
Well, a lot more people are paying attention to the World Economic Forum now than were 5 years ago. And I think a big part of this was when they came out with their Great Reset, which I know you're very well familiar with in 2020, as far as rebuilding the world after the pandemic. A lot of people who had never really had this organization on their radar started to look into it. And as you were talking about with James earlier, they start looking through the back catalog and seeing all of these other things that had been talked about before. And I think in the context of this year, the big challenge we're seeing is that there are conspiracy theories about the World Economic Forum that have no basis in fact. When you hear people talking about, everyone being, for example, this pandemic was planned and orchestrated, people being injected with, 5G chips and stuff like that. But the problem is that they use those and elevate those conspiracy theories to deflect all of the other criticism that is very reasoned, that is very rooted in fact, that is very much defined and delivered in terms of their own language, their own prescriptions. And that's the challenge here. And to go back to the malinformation point, I think we're going to start to see more pushes to regulate this form of information, which means to censor this information. Last year at the annual meeting, there was a woman from Australia who has a government digital safety commission role who talked about the need to, in her words, recalibrate things that we've always understood. And she included in that specifically freedom of speech. So we need to recalibrate freedom of speech because it might not apply to the modern era. And I think that's going to be something we hear a lot more of. And if you look at what the UK is doing with the online harms bill, what Canada is doing with a number of internet regulations, these things are already coming. And I think when you get all these leaders that are of a shared mindset in one place, it will accelerate that.
It also shows that when people with shared interests come together, that there is an inevitability that a centralized agenda will emerge. Stay free with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble.